Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Thought Leaders Live, where we talk with thought leaders in business, life, and all points in between. Today, special treat, we are joined by Conor Selway, Regional Vice President of Selway Machine and Tool. Uh, Conor, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you, Greg.
Connor is going to talk about, as the name of the show is, the title, From Military to Manufacturing Leadership, Service, and Sales. Connor oversees operations for Selway Machine Tool. It's a family business. And he's territory, as we were talking before the show, in some of the most gorgeous states
Yes,
in
absolutely.
the U.S., Montana, Utah, Idaho, and Nevada. So very envious of you there, Connor. And he's also a former distinguished career in the military, former Special Forces Green Beret. Thank you for your service, Connor. I always feel like I say that to people in the military, and I really hope that you and people who have served in the military don't feel like that is just a little piece of small talk that comes from people. Civilians such as myself, I mean, I'll watch movies on TV about the military, or we'll watch the news. And a lot of us just can't even imagine what you guys have gone through, whether you've seen combat or not, and just what you've given up for this country. So I want you, even though that's a short statement that a lot of people, I'm
Yeah.
sure you hear it a lot, I
No,
want you to understand how heartfelt that is
I
coming from
appreciate it.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was just under 13 years. About 12 of it was through Special Forces. And yeah, it was multiple deployments, quite a few trips overseas. And it was now I'm mainly selling machine tools to the manufacturing industry.
Well, and you just gave us a brief rundown. Why don't you
Yep.
take us through that a little bit more, Connor? We'd love to hear a little bit more about the story, what the deployment
Okay.
was like, and then what brought you in. Give us a little more detail, and then tell us a little bit about Selway Machine Tool.
Yeah, so I grew up, you know, moved around a little bit and then ended up in Houston, Texas, mainly is where I grew up and got out of high school. I played multiple sports in high school, and all four of my older brothers played collegiate sports. And to be honest, most of them were better than me. So I was like, if they didn't make it, I don't think I will. And so I had an opportunity to go to college to play, a smaller school for different sports. And I took some summer classes, and college wasn't for me. I was just like, this is, I'm too active. I need to go do something.
Right.
And just so I decided to join the army. And at first I did the reserves, and I was going to do that, have that paid for school, and just kind of have, I still was trying to figure it out. And then once I went through basic AIT, I actually went with one of my brothers who was back from college, and then yeah, we went in the reserves, and after about 6 or 8 months of being in the reserves, no offense to anyone that's in there, but it was just not right for me. I loved the active duty idea of it, and so I was like, you know what? I went back to my recruiter, who actually was a Green Beret, and I said, hey, I want to do something like jump out of planes, blow stuff up. Like I want to have some fun. And he's like, there's this thing called the 18 X-ray program, which is where you can go right in off the streets and try out. And I was like, well, what happens if I fail? He's like, well, then you end up airborne infantry. I'm like, well, it seems like a win-win. So let's do this. So went through that, went through airborne school, made it, went to what's called selection. It's a depending on your job specifications, it's going to be anywhere from 2 to 3 years of training to try in failing. I was lucky enough to make it through. I got assigned a medical specialty, so I had to go through like a year of medical training, learning how to do surgeries, deliver babies. I did all kinds of interesting stuff on that side too. Then they sent me. Uh, Funny thing is, I was finishing, and they were like, "Hey, there's some openings," because we were at war. This would have been, man, it all runs together. I think this would have been like '06, I think. and they offered me to go to dive school, which in the army they say is the hardest school in the military in the army. And I was like, oh, if I, so I went down there, tried out, I made it, and kind of set me on a path to be on a dive team from there, which was awesome. Worked with some great people. Um, Made it to a team, had multiple deployments, went overseas, moved around a little bit. But nice thing with SF Special Forces is you kind of get stationed. So I was in Washington State for most of it. Last couple of years, I came back and I was an instructor. And yeah, it was, I had to learn a foreign language, so I had to learn Russian, which
Oh,
uh,
wow.
yeah, I haven't retained a lot of it since then. I haven't used it much. And but yeah, so real interesting lifestyle. Obviously there's the deployments, but there's also the training. They sent me to all kinds of different schools. I was telling you the story of me going up to learn how to ski with a ski team. So like it was a very fun experience. But by the end, I had 3 kids. Now I have five, but I had 3 kids, amazing wife, and I was like, the deployments were still happening, and I just was ready to kind of try the next phase of life because I wanted to prioritize being there for my kids.
Yeah.
And and so I decided to make the transition to get out and go to civilian life.
Before we get
Which,
to that, Connor,
yeah,
I just gotta pause for a second because I think it's funny how you're describing this. And yeah, I decided to try, dive school. Yeah, I'll try that. It's like you're talking about trying to go bowling for the first time. So I mean, this personality, there's a certain personality that welcomes that challenge and isn't
yeah.
fearful of it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, when people ask me, probably the question I get the most is, do I, miss it? And I'm like, absolutely, I miss it. I don't regret it. I think
Yeah.
there's a difference there, right? And what I miss is the people. When I was in, it was only uh, males. There was no females at that time. Right as I got out, females were starting to go through the course. But when I was in, it was a team of 12 guys that we're all different, but we're also all the same.
Yeah.
We're all on that little verge of little crazy. So like when we get around and tell stories, people are like, man, you guys laugh at some of the most, they call it gallows humor, right? And
Right.
yeah, I think it does attract a certain type of personality. But I also think that personality is what can make you successful. Kind of what we will get into is, I've never been short of being, we joke in Selway Machine Tool, the best salesmen are failed athletes, because we have abnormal amount of confidence, but we've really never made it. But we're still very confident, and that's kind of
Mm,
what you need in the sales side, right? And so, yeah, I would agree with you that, my wife laughs at me when one of my army buddies will come back through town, and I'm now in Salt Lake City, and we'll have a drink or two and tell some stories. And she's like, you guys laugh at some of the most ridiculous moments that I don't understand how you can find funny. And that's, our term. I actually have a hat I wear all the time. It's called embrace the suck. And that's kind of our motto, right?
yeah.
It's going to suck, but if you just at the end, you're gonna get through it. And now it just makes for a funny story. And that's
Yeah.
kind of, and I think that compartmentalize that allows you to get through some of those bad situations that, you know, in combat you're gonna run into, but you
Em-
just put on your
Embrace the
boots and get
suck.
back at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
embrace the suck. No, that's so true. I mean, nowhere near comparison, but my roommates and I in college used to joke. I mean, we live in squalor, you just like
Yeah.
dump and justifiably so, considering how we treated our houses. But we just lived in dumps, and we would just make, that was fodder for more humor. So
Yeah.
we thoroughly embrace the suck there. But so tell me about, you're coming back then. Now you decide you're, hey, it's family time, which
Yeah.
kudos to you for recognizing that. And tell me about the transition then in over to Selway Machine Tool.
Yeah. So when I made the decision to get out, I had actually a few opportunities. Obviously, my previous military experience allowed me some avenues that I could have And but I kind of was like, yeah, I either got to make a clean break or I'm not. I'm always going to want to get back in, right? So I got to make. So uh, I've always been pretty good at networking, and I had a few opportunities. My cousin owns a machine tool company, and that competes against Selway,
Mm, really?
and yeah, so he was looking at me, I was looking at him, and then there's Selway Machine Tool, and then I had another completely different, but in sales ish stuff, and so I was kind of looking at all three of those avenues, and Selway Machine Tool being a family business, but what I'll get into the history in a sec. The people that were in charge were my uncles. It wasn't like my dad or my brothers, or it was more extended family. And so um, I kind of went through the process and ultimately chose Selway Machine Tool because I thought it gave me the greatest ability to move up, right, and to really kind of like I did in the military, just create my own career, right? Of hey, and I have since I've been at Selway. I've kind of started out in Washington, and now I'm all the way in Utah, and it's been a journey of 10 years to get here. But yeah, so Selway Machine Tool, very proud family business. My grandfather started it in 1963 in Richmond, California, Bay Area. And so he had 8 kids. Um, we're good Irish Catholics, and he would go buy a saw, put it on the back of a trailer, tow it to machine shops, demo it, sell it, take half the money, give it to my grandmother to take care of the 8 kids, go buy another saw and keep doing it.
Wow.
That's kind of how Selway Machine Tool started. 1968, he died of a heart attack.
Mm,
And my uncle Bill, who was the oldest of the 8 kids, and my uncle Pat was in Vietnam. He got recalled home for this. They kind of took over the company along with my grandmother to kind of run it because the rest of the kids were still high school and younger.
okay.
They were the only two out, I believe. I could be off a little, but if maybe my uncle Jim was either high school or just out. Anyways, that's kind of how, and you know, the business transitioned into that, I guess you would say, second generation. And from there, really, there was three brothers that, not to get into a lot of the history, but generally speaking, there were three brothers that kind of ran the business. There was Bill Selway, who was the oldest, Pat Selway, and who kind of moved up to Washington and really got us started up there and did a phenomenal job. And then my uncle Danny, who was in the Bay Area. My dad uh, was in it and did some sales, but he kind of would try some other things and come back. And he was always a salesman, but he he was the life of the party. Was probably the best way to put my father. And so when I went to Texas, when I was little, I wasn't really part of the industry. Like I couldn't when I started at Selway, I couldn't spell CNC. Like I didn't know anything. Like people think because of my last name, I grew up around it. I didn't. And but yeah, so that's kind of how I got into it. My last name definitely got me the interview, but you look at us now, we're 130 employees, and there's only 5 Selways. There's a lot of us out there, but there's only 5 that are part of the company.
Okay.
Um, and But yeah, that's kind of the history. And now we're on our third generation. So
Okay.
Bill Selway passed away a few years ago, and in 2012 he started to try to transition the company into an ESOP,
Oh,
employee
great.
owned. Yeah, and so the next generation has taken over, which is there's 5 owners. One of them is my brother Mark, and then Andrew Selway's our president, Zach Selway, and then Joe Madden's our CEO. So the family business is still in the family, but it's now becoming, for the last 13 years, an employee owned company, and it's being dispersed that way.
Okay, good. Yeah, we have a client who's employee owned and so much upside to that
Mm-hmm.
structure. I think it's such a great approach. Um, let's talk a little bit about you coming back and why sales.
Uh, I think I've always had like an outgoing personality. I don't think that probably from this video, it's probably not hard to understand that. But I just also think that my family just kind of out of my us five boys, all five of us are in sales. Two of us are at Selway, three of us are different companies.
Wow.
Um, I think it's the challenge. I like competition. Um, I think it's good. It's what gets you up and go to work, right? You need some challenge, you need some competition. So I think there's that aspect of it. I think generally I like to get to know people. I like hear like you're doing, hearing people's stories, you know, having traveled the world. I mean, I've been I think to 7 or 8 different countries when I was in the military. And so I've always been fascinated of hearing that, right? And so I think with sales, it naturally attracts me to it, is that it's competition. And you know, I'm not going to say it's a one for one, but one of the nice things about sales is I truly feel the amount of work you put in, you generally are going to get a return on.
Right.
And I got a lot of skills, but probably my best is I'm a hard worker. I'm going
Yeah.
to grind, right? And this profession rewards that, and so I like that aspect of it.
I mean, I always think that people always say that, "Oh, you're a great communicator, or, you're good with people, you should go into sales." And I'm with you. I'm like, "Hey, wait a second. Is this person, do they have the work ethic
Yeah,
to
because it's
do it?"
yeah.
And the
No, I heard
difference
someone say it can be the best paying, hardest working job, or the lowest paying, easiest working job, right? You
Yes.
can choose,
Yeah.
right? And but yeah, if and I think too, generally, I've failed at things in life before, and once you've kind of tasted that, you're like, hey, sun's gonna rise tomorrow. I'm
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna get back up and do it again, and so I don't mind dealing with that. Some people they really struggle to rebound, and I was just one of those that it didn't affect me as much.
And there is a certain, you probably are a little bit addicted to the rush, I mean, I think any athlete would is like that.
Yep.
And I'm sure it's in the military too. Your heart just
Yep.
beats a little faster. It's like Michael Jordan said, if you're not nervous before a big game, there's something wrong with you.
Oh yeah.
And we all get nervous, but boy, when you hit it, when
Yep.
you get that win, that's what keeps you coming back, and I'm sure that translates from sales to the military,
Absolutely. Yeah, sports, a lot of
sports.
professions, right? It's that man in the arena, right?
Yeah,
You want to be there, blood, sweat, and tears, right? And obviously, in the sales profession, you're going to have your ups and downs, you're going to have your peaks, you're going to have your valleys, right? And there's times I sit there in a parking lot and I'm just got to listen to some music to pump myself up because it's been a bad day,
yeah.
right? And
What?
but you get up and keep going.
It's just like some guy said to me the other day, he's like, why do I do this to myself? But it's like, that's
Yeah.
life, man.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how you're applying some of the special forces disciplines, like discipline, adaptability, and humility are three things that we put in the show description. I would like to hear you talk a little bit about those and how you're applying those into your day-to-day life.
Yeah. So, from starting out running, working under other salesmen, right, is where I started. I did a little bit of service, and they quickly got me out of that because they were like, "Yeah, you're not handy." So they moved me strictly to focus on the sales side, and right away I kind of realized that, like, Bill Belichick. I think it was Bill Belichick. I heard it on a podcast, but it says talent slash intensity, whichever way you want to describe it, attracts, but consistency transforms, right? And
Mm,
I really feel that one of the things the military teaches you is to get up, do a routine, and stick to a plan, create a plan, and execute, right? Now you're going to adjust,
yep.
but having the discipline to get up and do the same thing every day. That consistency will help you grow, right? And I think that there's a lot of, especially in the sales industry, you can get a lot of people that are smooth talkers, really good, really personable, right? And they'll start at a company, do well for a few months to 6 months, and then they taper off, right?
Yeah.
And really what it is they don't have that foundation to really keep growing and transforming, right? Yeah, they come out hot, right? It's like the person that starts working out for 2 weeks in a row, like, I'm going to get in shape. Well, it's better to, if you can work out once or twice a week for the whole year,
Yeah.
than to slam it over 2 weeks. And so I think that discipline of the military helped me of, you know, get up, get up in the morning. If you're a salesman, and I can't speak for all sales professions, I can just speak for my industry that I'm in. But if I get up in the morning and I don't know where I'm planning to go, I feel like I've already failed the day, right? Like
Yeah.
if I'm just getting in the car being like, I'm just going to drive over to this area and knock on doors, like you're setting yourself up for failure,
That's
right?
so true.
Right. And I think, and I had some great people to work under. A guy named Todd Newhouse, who's phenomenal up in Washington for us. And I learned a ton from him of that, of planning your week, planning your month, staying consistent, right? And he's our top salesman in the company. He's amazing. And I was blessed to learn under him of that, right? And then having the military discipline made it easier for me, right? And then, I think
So
the adaptability, right? You're going to go into shops, and it's not always going to go well, right?
yeah.
You're going to walk into angry customers, right?
Mm.
It's manufacturing. Machines are going to break. Robots are going to go down. Software is going to have issues. Like whatever can happen will happen. Murphy's law, right? And when you go into that shop, having the ability to, hey, take it on the chin. They're yelling at me. They're pissed off, right? Understandably so. And to wear it, hey, I'll see what I can do and follow through. I think that being able to handle that in my previous job allowed me to, like, hey, I'm not getting shot at here. It's not as bad, right? It's, you know,
Perspective.
yeah, exactly. My brother says that's my word I use all the time is perspective. And my perspective is like, yeah, it is bad. It's their lifeline. Give me some time and I'll get you an answer. And I think that leads to the one biggest thing that I learned in the military is actually communication. And I think it's the biggest mistake that leaders, managers, salesmen, doesn't matter the industry, fail at is communicating. And they think sending an email is communication. Well, no, communication is a response. If I talk and you respond, we're now communicating. Me sending an email is not communicating, right? And I think that, I that communication, in the military, one of the big things is you always got to read it back. If I get an order or I get a task, Greg gives me a task, I'm going to repeat it back to you so I understood what you asked me to do.
Mm.
I know what your
Wow.
expectations are for me, and now I'll execute, right? Because if I could have misunderstood you, and so me repeating it back clears that up. And I think that simple little communication gap is to fix that can fix so many things in any industry, in my opinion.
When you mentioned that, it seems like it is such a great tactic. And I don't think we realize that the military comes up with these things. It's not like just somebody, some consultant came in
Yeah.
and suggested they do that. These disciplines and these practices were developed in order to save lives, right?
Yep.
To keep you guys safe. And when you do something like that, that's because they realize that
Yep.
what that command is so critical to everybody,
Yeah.
and that these things, and that's why I think everybody listens just a little bit more carefully when they hear someone like you with the military background speaking, because you've got all these techniques, strategies, disciplines, tactics that you've learned with all your training. and can really put those to work for your success and your company's
Yeah,
success.
for sure. Yeah, no, I think that that's the biggest one I try to harp on is, and I tell it to my, because I run the service ish in the sense of like I assist in the service and applications, and those guys, they're unbelievable. They can fix anything. They're way better than I am at those skills. It's not even close. Now, I'm cross trained enough that I can at least answer some phone calls and
Yeah,
help out if, that's another thing military, right? Cross training. I need to be able to, I'm never going to be as proficient as that person, but I got to be proficient enough that if a guy calls me, I don't sound like I have no idea what he's talking about, right? And I tell my guys a lot, like, hey, communicate. When you leave the shop, if you were waiting on a part, let's say, go up to the owner. He's going to be pissed. Yeah. Guess what else he's going to be pissed about? If you left and didn't tell him.
right.
I said, now if you tell him, hey, I ordered the part, it'll be here tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon when the part arrives and I'll put it in. That gives him a chance, like, okay, I'm going to be down in the morning. Maybe he can adjust his schedule
Mm.
to move a part over to another machine, right? We're giving him the ability to adapt and adjust his schedule based on bad news. And it's not going to make good news by me not saying anything. So let's just communicate it. If you need me to, call me. I'll call the customer. I'll be the guy to take the heat round and we'll move on.
One other element you mentioned was humility. Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, that's a hard one, right? Like, how do you talk about being, but I think that, in a team environment, like it's a mission first, right? From my previous profession, right? And so you don't, you know, generally in the special forces community and special ops, let's say, which would be us, the SEALs, and a few other, um, we're we're doing that job not to write books and get slapped on the back. We're doing it because it needs to be done, right? And if you kind of take that same approach, like when I sell a machine or something like that, I didn't really sell it, right? And I think that in the leadership roles, a salesman is their own CEO in some aspects. But when you kind of, what is that, the hubris of Icarus, right? Getting too close to the sun, you start to think too
Hmm.
highly of yourself. Is that most of the sales that I've had, I joke sometimes, I've never sold a machine in my life. People have bought from me. There's a difference, right? Is that I've had either the right mousetrap, they needed it, right? I've had a great team behind me because they've serviced the machines that they want to continue to do business with us, which is what Selway really focuses on, right? Is service and support. Yes, the sales, but without service and support, the sales are going to fall through, right? And so Selway, from my uncles to my grandfather, was always about make a customer, not a sale. And it sounds cheesy. It sounds like 100% a sales pitch, but it's a belief of like, hey, we all help. When they call in and get phone support, right? That lady or that gentleman that is helping them helped me make the next sale, right? And I think that too often, especially the big top sellers and CEOs and managers take a lot of, hey, I did this, I did that. And it's like, in reality, it's a lot of people supporting that mission that made it succeed, right? The receiver didn't just score the touchdown by himself. It
Right.
was the offensive line blocking. It was the quarterback that made the throw, right? Like it's a team aspect. And I think that too often people lose sight of that and take credit, that I had a great year this year in sales, but I had a great year because I got a great team behind me, supporting me, making sure machines go installed correctly, making sure we're supporting the customer, making my CEO is amazing, and working. Sometimes a customer gets caught in a pickle financially, right? And we may have to help create some creative terms, and he's been phenomenal on that, right? So it's all of that that leads to a sale, and I think that or whatever business, right? That manager, it's that people underneath that are working for them that really spell their success. And I think too often they lose sight of that.
I think it's really of great value for you, Connor, to just come out, tell your personal values, tell what you believe in. I mean, you haven't really talked at all about Selway's products
Yeah.
or anything like that. But to your point, so much of this is about relationships, and I love what you just said. You're not here to make a sale; you're here to get a customer.
Yep.
And like we were talking before the show about AI and
Yep.
how important the people still are in the equation,
Yep.
and let's not lose sight of that. And
Yeah, and don't lose sight of, like, for us it's solution based, right? Is, I'm never going to be able to walk, we sell a couple products, and different territories sell different stuff, but we got high end lines from Japan like Matsura and Enshu and Toyota. To We sell Haas in certain territories, which is American made down in California. But we also created our own Trinity solution, which is we're collaborating with Intrinsic on, out of the Bay Area. Um, and that's a palletization that we can put on any machine, right? Not just our own. So, and our lines are really tailored for me not to go in there and be like, hey, this is what I have, buy it, right? This
mhm,
is, like, I don't know what that customer, I mean, that's narcissistic for me to walk in and be like, I know what's best for your shop that you're in. Like, what was it, MRS machining that you had on the other day?
right.
For me to walk into that shop and know what they need is absolutely ridiculous, right? I need to get to know what their product is. I get to know them, understand what their bottlenecks are. Do we need to utilize their spindles more? Do we need to eliminate setups? Do they need more tools? Are they affected by the skills gap, right? There's a lot of people looking for machinists out there. If they're short on machinists, I need to figure out a way to augment their existing personnel, right? And so all of those things are kind of what you look into. And Selway does a great job of it. We got a lot of lines that we can offer, two solutions on that. What, like I said, whether it's Trinity, our own product for automation, or the other manufacturers that we sell.
Yeah, I like how the solutions based all just really ties into that
Yep.
or overall philosophy that you've got. Well, Connor, we're at the top of the hour. I really enjoyed this conversation, and thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story, Selway's story. And it sounds like very exciting places that you are headed, and where Selway is headed. So kudos to you, and I hope you and the five kiddos and your wife just have a great holiday.
You too, Greg. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, and thanks everyone for joining us on another edition of Thought Leaders Live. We'll see you in 2026 and look forward to seeing you then.